In the last video, we were using the calendar and going through the basics. We covered everything up above here. In this video on the calendar, what we're going to do is address the buttons up here and down at the bottom, the calendar, what expired appointments are, and how to create appointments on the application calendar. So let's get started. First of all, let's talk about the users. We already covered a little bit of that, where if you click in here, it gives you the ability to see what users are available for the application. And one who is assigned as the manager can set passwords and also set up the individual clients that are going to be used on the application. Multi-user is not used by any users. It's how to set specific things within the application by the developer. This little icon up here that has the help showing on it, what this does is it gives you some more information from the developer of the calendar on how to use the calendar. But be aware that there's a lot of custom features that have been added by the developer here to provide you with more functional features and benefits that are included in the application. Now, one of the things that I want to point out as you're using the application calendar is to, well, we'll call it a recap, but basically what it does is it allows the individual or managers or anybody that's in a multi-user environment or as a standalone to create different calendars. And with each calendar that you create or use the default ones, which are these, or add new users, you can have each one of those calendars separately logged into, or if you log in as an administrator or as a user, you can click on the next screen where it shows you can add your appointment information into one of the calendars that's already existing. If you look at the calendars and you have information added on them, if you move from one to the other and you haven't put a checkbox, say for example in the contacts, that calendar will not have the information. Where if you put it in a delivery, then it would be in there when you click that checkbox. Let's go ahead and start with going down here to the bottom and see that you can have a profile where you show user profiles. The next one is preferences, and the next one is relogin. These two are really not necessary for you to use. They're more advanced than the calendar needs to be used. For example, setting up email accounts or changing the icons for the status. Those are things that are done by the developer and delivered with the product when you receive it. Relogin allows you to log into an account originally, like the administrator. Then relogin will give you the ability to move to one of the other calendars with its username and password and relog in to that particular calendar. Why would you want to do that? Well, it may be your account where you're the delivery person and managing that, and you want to be able to use that calendar only with your information that you've added only on your own calendar. That will help you to manage the data without having all the other calendar information showing on your calendar for a daily, weekly, monthly, or yearly type of a situation. Down here in this area, you can move between the dates and the calendars by month, day, and or specific. Down here in this area of the calendar, you can see that this is the current day, the 4th of July, 2016. And what you can do is if you click on that, it'll show the calendar for that particular date. And if you have an underline under any one of these letters, or the numbers up here rather, if you have an underline on it, that's signifying that within your calendar you have some kind of event or appointment there. And if you clicked on it, then it would go to that date and you could see that particular thing. And they can be in advance. And for example, if you're actually making an appointment out on the 20th, you see a line on it and it's only the 4th, that means you've set up an appointment for that date. And if you click on it, it will give you that information. Above us is the expired appointments. This is a case where on the 23rd, for one reason or another, this particular appointment was not actually done, not completed. How do you complete one? As we covered before, you can go into the actual event, and let's go to that event. And I'll pull it up here so you can see it. In that event, it was already scheduled, and I put it in as a test record - system testing. Typically, if you're going to work with this application, you would want to put the person that you're actually assigning an event or an appointment, put their name and then a dash and then what the appointment's about. You would pick say one of these different icons so it goes up on the calendar. And when you have those set, you can set the priority of it. You can set the date of the actual start and finish. In this particular case, you could have just a start date and the time for the start. And this can be in advance. Obviously, you can go out to days further out. And we were talking about if it was completed or not. If you come up here, you should click in here if you want to show it as completed. It'll remove it from the expired area on the other screen, and it would not show it there anymore. The next one is if you want to run a span of days where you're going to have somebody, say like from the 23rd through the 30th, and you're doing different things for them. You could put the time for that start and that end for those in that date range. And what that would do is each one of the calendar dates would have an underline for that particular date's event all the way through. Typically what you would see is the date range, and in here you would see the times and the end times in here. One of the next things you'll see on this screen is the customer record. What this is we were talking about the back end of the application prior to this. This gives you the ability to look to the back end of the application and modify or update any information for the particular individual customer or client. Now it says candidate select. What that really means is this candidate for this particular appointment, and this is the information that was set up in the back end of the application, and there's an area for a comments block, and they have a customer ID, which we'll talk about more as we're learning more about the application. If you want to go down and look at more people in the actual customer group, you can see where this one has an image in it. You can put as much text as you want in it. As you put the text in, it will show up in the actual back-end record. Now, I put an individual photo in each one of these, but these were duplicated. If I wanted to change it, I could click on it, and I can insert another picture. If you're on the iPad or iPhone, you can use this to go to the photo library and put in whatever photo you want to out of there, or you can pick it up from the desktop or someplace on your hard drive on a desktop machine. This is the place where you would actually put in their website. Usually we don't recommend you click on this from here, but what it'll do is if you're on the back end of the application, you can click on this open site button. It'll take you to that particular contact's website if they have one and you want to put it in there. Now, why would we use this in the appointments? If you wanted to edit the information here or make sure that you have a client that is already in the client database, you can scroll through here and see if they're there. And then the ID up here would identify that particular client who's the primary client for that particular account, or in this case for the company, that each individual company that you might be working with, and that information. The comments are generally general comments. They're not detail about the appointment. This is about the company and something that may be something that you can use as far as information to assist you about that particular company. So first of all, we know that we can get to the records for the customer. The next one, and I'm going to cover them broadly, and then I'm going to come back after I do the rest of this particular information here. There's also a status up here where you can actually edit these and add more statuses if you have a particular thing you want to point out in the events. And for example, I could put booked, and then I can come back over here and put another statement in here if I wanted to. Going down to this area down here, I was saying that the different calendars, if you put a check in them, that check would now put this information for this appointment or event into that calendar, as well as the administrator and the contact calendar. Now, you have a lot of flexibility as far as these particular calendars are concerned. You can change the names, information on them. You can add by using a default user. You can copy or duplicate the default user and create additional users by their name, where they can have calendars set up for themselves, or say somebody within the group where they're pointing information to that individual. You can see that this whole area can contain many different calendars as far as that is concerned. The next thing we're going to look at is that these are custom. By the way, these buttons up here are called Popovers. They're custom additional things that were added on the application, as well as this information down here. The application has some specific things that were brought to this screen to assist you when you're working with each individual event or appointment that you're setting up. One of those is the equipment assignment. And what this does is it provides the end item equipment as it is assigned each individual that is in your list for customers. So if you have a customer and his ID is number 1, and this is where it was picked, this was created in the back end of the application, and the information was added here. Now you do have some ability to change the status in here. You can also type in the location where the equipment is actually located and the address where you'd find it. And this particular thing is for people that are not your internal company, but you want to have the information handy for you to know where the actual equipment and so forth is located. For example, if you're making an event or an appointment and you're actually talking to the client and they tell you, okay, well, we moved the location and we've changed the address, you could add that, and then you can add the status for that. For example, maybe you're doing a replacement or returning one or delivering one or putting one into service. Those are the kind of statuses you can change. Now, when you get to the back of the application, some of these fields that have drop downs in them will have an underline on them. And what that's signifying is that if you click on the header that has the underline in it, it will take you to that particular drop down where you can edit that drop down. The iPad and iPhone do not allow you to edit their drop downs, where this particular approach allows you to edit the drop downs and add your own information in there. Since these are just type in edits, you don't have to have a drop down. You can go ahead and enter your data directly in there. Now, as this says, modify the record data in the customer information screen. So if you went to the, you can't go from there in this screen because you don't go directly from a model screen to the back end of the application. So what if you added more clients and more equipment, this would show all the client equipment, and these are the end items. For example, it's the whole vehicle or the whole whatever it is product that is the end item equipment. That is listed in here, and it gives you a more declarative thing about the equipment name, like it says a 2009 Chevy 5-ton flatbed and so forth. These are things like that. This is kind of a funny thing for Bernie Sanders. We put his government limo in here and gave him the 666. Equipment status is not available, and the burn is the guy, and the governor one palace is where he place rather is where he actually has his vehicle. So that just gives you an idea of what's in here. To go off of any of these, you can either click on the button or click any area that's an open area on the screen to remove the buttons on the screen. The next thing down here is kind of a grouped area where you can have more information as far as all the products that support the equipment. So these would be all the pieces, parts, and consumables that are listed in the inventory system, and it gives you the price, what group they belong in, and this is actually drop down when you're actually in the back end of the application. The same thing with the status is a drop down where you can edit it in the back end of the application, and you can replace anything that's in here when you're setting up the application to have it say or do what you want it to do. The standard price will explain that when we get in the inventory system and how that works. They also have a note here, and you can add as many things or as least as you want. In this particular case, there's quite a few of them in there. This one does have a link up here, but it's not active as far as just being able to show you that you can go to the notes and add notes. And you can see this is the individual item ID, and in this case, this is a part number of parts or specific systems, subsystems, or other that are listed in the inventory system. The equipment ID is the actual description of the equipment as far as the design or whatever it's designed to do, and you can see that it's either a hose or a fitting or a filter or an air cleaner or whatever it may be that's in the inventory system. Serial numbers are added to items that have serial numbers, and the reason for that is that serial numbers are important when you're taking something off of one piece of equipment and maybe salvaging it or putting a new one back on. And this actual information here can be added on the back end of the application as far as a specific, like the truck's main computer has a serial number, and we'll get into how you can vary these by changing this particular field in the back end of the application. Okay, next thing is to put in to-dos as far as the actual event is concerned. You can click in here and add information as far as a overview of what the thing is about. Then you can go ahead and click the plus to add the creator and some notes about this particular thing. And for example, this is cycling, so you could have an event or a requirement, And then each time you put in a new note, it brings more information about that particular description and gives you more detail about that. The same thing for the appointment sub. You can show who it's assigned to, the date it was assigned. You can show the date it's due and the title of that particular appointment sub that you're working with. So if you had another appointment up here, an event, and you wanted to bring reference from here up to that other one that is maybe on a different screen, then you would go ahead and put that information in here. The work log is if you're actually doing something that's based on a time event where you want to have one user doing something or more. You can put as many in there as you need, and it would show the start date, the description, and the time spent. When you put that in here, will actually put a bar across the top of the particular event that you're working on. And normally what you would do is you could have this event grouped, and what it would do is it would take the sum estimate of all the time that you're spending. Now, some people might want to do this. Maybe you're going out to do an inspection on a vehicle, and you want to have it timed for a certain amount of time, and what little tasks that you're going to do as far as the work log is concerned. This will give progress on it, and especially if you had to do this over a couple of days period, it would show how much the percentage of complete you have done at the bar at the top of the screen. Okay, well that pretty well takes care of this input information on the screen. These little red X's are things that I recommend you do not delete things. If you put something into the input area and then you go start deleting them, you may delete something that's important that either somebody else put in and they don't want to change it. And these are for adding information. For example, if you want a new item on this list, you can add it here. If you want to get out of here without closing it, or you want to delete it, say for example this particular record, you wanted to delete it because you started to put it in and it was not going to be relevant, you can delete it. I don't recommend at all that you delete anything in your calendar. This is historical data. Unless it's an error and you don't want to use it, I would take it and go ahead and use it. What happens is each line is going to be a different event for the day, the week, the month, the year, or on the list. These particular pieces of information are vital for management or supervisors to go ahead and follow people on different calendars and see what's gone and been done, or something is gone expired and we have to find the reason out why it has not been taken care of. You may have to readjust your calendar or redo the appointment for either the same day at a later time or a different date where this one has gone expired. You can show this complete if it's not completed because of another reason. Say, for example, in this case, it's a test. We would go ahead and let people know why it was either canceled or has to be rescheduled. You can actually have a rescheduled calendar if you wanted to add it in here to show things that either need to be rescheduled or are not rescheduled to date. By just adding another one in the user area, you could add a reschedule calendar, or you can put it in the contacts calendar. It's really dependent upon the way you want to use it. Okay, so this pretty well covers the calendar. I will probably state this several times during the videos in this application. If you have questions or you're lost, don't hesitate to contact us through the developer's website, and you can do that a couple different ways. There is a drop down on the next screens where you can drop down and actually click on the developer's link, or there's one at the top of the screen on the customer information screen where you can click that and it will take you to the developer website where you can ask either questions by chatting or leave an email and send us information, or the chat would be probably your best way to get information, or you can use the information on the website to go ahead and send an email to us. Thank you for taking this video.